if I want to just put a green here, and I just don't want to have a green other places, that time just a stencil may work effectively. Okay, just as blocking some area from ink from transferring. Okay, so that's something I want to just talk about. Okay, often I hope you don't have to use that, but some cases it's good to know that that option is available. Okay. Of course, my case, the stencil is actually, it's a frosted acetate. It's a plastic with a little bit of frosty, okay, or matte acetate or matte. And what I normally do is the acetate should be slightly bigger than block size. Okay, there are many ways to do it, but this is my way. Okay, so I'm just tracing the size of the block. Okay, and I'm gonna just cut this, but only the corner. So I'm gonna just cut the corner only. So I'm just making those slits to the corner. Okay, I'm not necessarily cutting the entire. You can have your block and your stencil can be just cover and doesn't move. Does it make sense? Mm-hmm. Just making lower like that. So it's kind of a fitting with this corner like this, so it doesn't move. So I'm gonna just trace. The reason I'm using a frosted acetate is I can trace and see what I see down there on the block. So I can cut here. Shapes are sticking out here, but they are carved out, so shouldn't be that much big deal. So I'm just trying to get the green to only this side of the image. Okay. Other side also has this corner being latched like this, so it doesn't move. Okay. Okay. So let's make this one to be printed. I'm using a rubbing alcohol to take that marker line away. Of course, I could be covering the entire block, but it doesn't have to be, right? Because you're planning on only one small area. Talk about that. Yes, of course. Yes. So I don't recommend to use this in a like to make so many complicated shapes. Just a simple shape is fine. Okay. But if you are trying to start to cut complicated shapes instead of carving, then it doesn't go well with the rest of the image, which is all carved wood block. Right. So that's actually related question. When you see this, right, this area become a little bit fuzzier. That first one was actually better, actually. You cannot get a very good impression around here because of that.
Yes.
It does have a little bit thickness, right? So sometimes you want to cut the shape, cut the stencil a little bit bigger, so you get enough shape here, okay? But at the same time, if you're starting to rub too strong, you may start to get those shapes of the cut out stencil. I'm gonna be just printing on my block with a stencil, okay? So one thing, so I'm gonna just roll up ink here. Just partially. If you can avoid stencil, that would be the best. So stencil to print something, right?
Yeah.
But this time it's more like you are masking, so you're blocking the ink from transferring.
Yeah.
So if I use my stencil like this, okay. So just I wanna talk about how I develop. It's one more layer from last time. And I'm going to add this one. I use an etching press too, but I'm just using that doorknob for some small opening because still the thickness of that, it's a very thin acetate, but still there's a thickness. Unless you push with something small like this, ink doesn't go through those places. Okay, so I'm just using that. It wasn't bad. You see that I just printed this part only, a little bit small spot where I want to have a greens. This is exactly what I was talking about last time. Is you will see, you get a little bit the shape of the masking from stencil. And you don't want it to be showing on your artwork. So the color shouldn't be too different when you are applying this method, okay? So I was making a little bit, I didn't want to make it too different from previous orange, okay? Other things I want to talk is, Linda asked about this can be a clear acetate, right? And that's possible. There is a more chance your pressure from the paper to the paper you may get the impression from the paper to the acetate. Gets a little bit sticky. So you may lose some of your ink pulled off to your acetate if you do too much of pressure. So earlier I was using the etching press. So got so much pressure here and a lot of ink was pulled off from the paper to the stencil. So just I want you to be careful. If you have a clear acetate, maybe gets too sticky to the sticky ink. Okay, I have frosted acetate, which both sides is very frosted, means there is some kind of teeth. Maybe this one have less chance to be too sticky to the paper. Okay, but this stencil, one side is frosted, the other side is clear. And that's why it became so sticky to the paper. So I want you to be a little bit careful about that. Okay, so don't use something very too smooth. It may stick to the paper. Okay, and also this may have a chance to break if you make a very complicated shapes. I'm already patching with Scotch tape here already. You see a lot of patching already, right? So it becomes very fragile. And if you use something like a paper, it may become very thick and you may not be able to print well. So it's a little pros and cons. It's with a reduction cut, it definitely gives you a more flexibility for color planning, but at the same time, also give you some headache too, okay? So I want you to be a little bit aware of those issues about usage of the stencil in conjunction with the reduction cut, okay?